everyone! Need to give a speech and don't know where to begin. A well written and organized speech greatly reduces the anxiety around delivery and can help win over audiences in a way the written word just cannot match. In this education section, speech writing, organized by EIY Public Speaking and Professional Development, Kaja, the coach, outlines the basics of speech writing, including incorporate support for your thesis and adapting your delivery to your audience. He is a Toastmaster for 3.5 years and he is also a current division director of Toastmaster International. He is also the youngest club president. Hello, Kaja. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Hi, Kaja. Many learners at EIY, Public Speaking and Professional Development, asked me a question. Where should we start when writing a speech? Can you please share with us your opinion?
Okay, so this is actually a very simple thing why many people get confused on. While writing a speech, you must always have an idea. Writing a speech is about expanding an idea. So it depends on who you're delivering it to. For example, if you're delivering it to a team of medical students about the benefits of exercising, so your idea is to talk about the benefits of exercising that fit the medical students. Secondly, if you look about an idea, how do you get an idea? For example, the topic is how to motivate yourself. Find ideas that you personally know or personally did about motivating yourself. So find ideas. From that ideas, you expand into a speech. As simple as that.
I see it means that there are two key takeaway points I got from your answer. The first one is analyze your audience, and the second one is choose the idea that you are capable of, right? Yeah. So that links to the second question. How can we tie the talks together with the transition to make sure that you can combine the introduction together with the body and with the conclusion, or maybe sometimes you can combine the ideas between the body speech.
Okay, for transitions is like next, first, secondly. So for example, you're talking about how to motivate yourself. So you can
Yeah.
say the first thing that I do to motivate myself is go on YouTube and watch an inspiring video. And you explain about why you should watch an inspiring video. Then you go, the second thing that I do, the third thing that I do, it's not about using transitions. You can use any transitions that you like secondly, firstly, thirdly. It's about how you say it and how with energy and passion you say it. So transitions is very useful in your speech. Please use transitions because it helps not only you to give a speech, but it helps the audience, the most important people, to understand your idea. Because if you talk about motivating yourself, you talk about one idea, you jump to another idea, and then you jump to a third idea, but there is no flow, there is no linking between the bridges, the audience will get lost. So
Mhm.
using a transition like secondly, thirdly, another idea would be if you use this type of transition, okay, the audience will be like, yes, I understand what you're talking about. I really get you. When it comes to a conclusion is basically a summary. And in your conclusion, never let it be more than 2 to 3 sentences.
Mhm.
Always say, when it comes to in conclusion, keep it to 2 to 3 sentences because that is where the audience are actually going to get the final message of your speech. So use transition wisely and always remember your conclusion. Don't let it be more than 3 sentences.
I see. So you mean that we just need to use the word like firstly, secondly, and in conclusion in order to signal the audience that you are about to move to the next point, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
I see. That is a great way to connect the points together. And how can you wrap up the message in a sentence or a phrase when you prepare for writing a speech?
Okay. what I usually love to give to sum up a message or sum up a summary of a speech that I'm doing is I love to use quotes. So, for example, you're talking about overthinking, right? You're talking about telling your audience, do not overthink. How can you say it in a very simple phrase? This is what I always use. Nothing can destroy metal but its own rust. Likewise, nothing can destroy a human but his own mind. So you sum up your entire message in your speech with just one quote. Phrases are okay, but quotes give the most lasting impact. I would suggest to use more quotes, especially in your conclusion, because in your conclusion is where you're going to sum up your idea. And in your introduction, also include a quote, because in that quote, you're going to open the idea, you're going to open the pathway for the audience to actually understand what you're going to talk about. So use quotes instead of phrases, because quotes to me give a better and more lasting impact to the audience.
I see, got you. You mean that quote can be a way to wrap up the message in case that we don't know how to wrap up the message, right? How can you
Yeah.
find the message of your speech?
Okay, very simple. Let Give me any topic. Give me any topic right now to to find a message from it. Just give me an example of a topic. So let me just give an example of a topic. Let's just say the benefits of exercising.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just say exercising. Work hard today or pay the bills tomorrow.
Mm,
It clearly states that if you don't exercise today, you have to pay the bills. It means pay your medical bills when you get like all those type of diseases like high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, all of these type of diseases that can be avoided if you
mm,
exercise. So easy said, exercise today or pay the bills tomorrow. It
mm.
actually gives an idea to the audience saying that, oh my god, if I don't exercise, if I don't take care of myself, tomorrow in the future I have to pay a lot more money to fix what could not be fixed at the start.
I see. As what I learned from your answer is that a message is a single sentence or it can be a single phrase, right? And
Yes.
sometimes it carries your call for action as well because that is what you want the audience to remember and you want them to do. Am I correct on that point?
Yes, a call of action is really very important because
Mm,
you may speak for 30 to 45 minutes,
yeah.
but the call of action is something that the
Mm-hmm.
audience will take home.
I see.
That is something that we all as speakers or speech writers should take note of.
I see. Got you. And sometimes I can see that some learners at EIY it's really hard for them to find out the message or even to wrap up the message into one phrase or one sentence only because they have so many ideas. So, with your experience, do you think whether we have any way in order to help our learners to wrap up their entire speech into one message only, even though they have like tons of information in that speech?
Okay, always remember in a speech, never give more than 3 to 4 facts. Never give to 3 to 4 points,
Yeah.
because I believe in not overloading your audience. So the
Mm,
one tip that I give my students is, okay, I want you to write a speech for 30 minutes.
yeah.
Write a speech that you're going to write for 30 minutes. Cut it into half. Cut it into half, cut it into
Mhm,
half, cut it into half. In the end, they'll have a 7 minute speech with
mhm,
only 3 points. So, using this cutting method, that is one way of teaching people how to summarize.
mm,
Very important is summarization. Secondly, it is not so important about having a message. It's
mm,
also important that you must have a solid summarization of what
mm,
we have said in the body paragraphs as well as the introduction, because it's very important. For example, you talked about the benefits of exercising. You talk about you feel healthier, you feel younger, your skin looks younger. If you talk about all of this, you explain all the facts, but the summarization, it's missing.
mm,
It's The audience will lose their attention, because once I talk about one point, I move on to the second point, the audience will be like, I forgot what you said in the first point.
Mm,
So the summarization is very important. And once you learn to summarize your three body paragraphs, my students find it very easy for them to take a home, to find a take home message, because I told them, what do you understand from writing these three paragraphs here? Put it in the conclusion, because you want the audience to see the world through your eyes and make them understand how you see the speech, right? So use
mm,
the same example, and from there my students found out that that's a very easy way of writing a conclusion.
I see. So as I understand is that in your speech, especially the body, we just only have around 3 points, right? And after that, you're gonna summarize those 3 points in your conclusion in order to make sure that your audience can understand and remember what you already said. The challenge
Yes.
here is that sometimes I feel that I fall into the trap of being so greedy toward the information I deliver to the audience. So there was a time you said that we tried to cut some points, but the challenge is how do you know that which point you should cut it out and then which point you should keep in order to make sure you can deliver your message to your listeners?
Okay, so another thing that I do when I do my speech writing process is
Yeah.
I understand who am I delivering my speeches to,
Mm,
because the people that you deliver speeches to is very important.
yeah.
For example, if they are kids, like the age range, that's mostly people that I work with, children from the age of 13 to 18. So
Mm,
if you work with them, you must use simpler points. Of the 30 to 40, let's just say you have 10 points. Out of the
mm,
10 points, there's only 2 to 3 points which are meant for them, for their understanding. So you
mm,
take that points. Then move on, analyze your audience. That's why it's very important to analyze your audience. So the moment you know, okay, I'm speaking to a bunch of students, this is very useful information to them.
mm,
Speak about it. If you know your audience, if you analyze your audience, it's okay.
mm,
Coming to the part about being too greedy, actually there is something that you can do, which
mm,
actually most people don't talk about much, is actually you can summarize other points
yeah.
that you would like to talk about. You can
Mm,
just give like a 3 4 sentences and say, hey guys, do you know there's extra benefits about exercising? Do you guys really want to know about it? Stay tuned for a future
mm,
speech of mine. You know, it creates excitement with the audience. Say, oh my god, I want to watch his next speech. So
mm,
this could be another idea. So, but to sum up, always understand the audience that you're speaking to and fix the points to them. So if you
mm.
find out who are your audience, you can actually tailor make the points to fit their necessity.
I see. So it means that we need to understand who we are talking to, and based on that criteria, we know which information we're gonna keep and which information we need to cut it off. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Now I have a question from a learner, and she's just a beginner. She just started her public speaking journey, and
Okay.
she asked me a question that do we need to learn useful phrases for presentations in English, such as "Good morning, everyone. Welcome you to our presentation today," or "Let me start by saying a few words about my own background." Or another way that she may start is, as you can see on the screen, our topic today is. Do you think that as the second as we English is not our main language, it's not our native language. Should we learn those useful phrases before we study presentation in English? Or should we just be spontaneous in order to start our presentation without fully following any useful phrases?
Okay, this is what I tell my students.
Yeah.
Number one, if you want to be spontaneous, make
Mm,
sure you're good in the language that you're going to be spontaneous about.
yeah.
Make sure that you're fluent in the language. Then, if you want to be spontaneous, I leave
Mm,
it up to you. But what do I tell my students who are not so good in English? You know, I have
mm,
students who are not so good in English. So this is what I tell them: the
mm,
phrases that you can use, because I do public speaking, so it's different compared to presentation.
yeah.
Always start with salutations. Like, instead of saying the not typical good morning, good evening, just
Mm,
say Hi everyone, how you guys feeling today? Thank you for
mm,
coming for my presentation. And as you can see from the screen above, we're gonna
mm,
talk about like that. So it's do not say good morning or good day, because once you said that, you're creating a very formal bridge with your audience. That is just my
mm,
personal opinion, because I've realized when I say hi guys, how are you? I feel instant smilers. I see instant people smiling, and from
mm,
through the smiles I get an energy, and from that energy I can deliver my presentations. And that is for an informal presentation. You can say hi guys. What if it's is for a formal presentation? A formal
mm,
presentation, you can say good day, welcome, I am Kaja, and today I'll be talking about the benefits of exercising. So
mm,
then, as you can see from my PowerPoint there, don't straight away go as you can see from my PowerPoint, because the audience will be lost.
mm,
You talk about you greet your audience, introduce yourself a little, then slowly induce your topic into it,
mm,
then go to as you can see on my PowerPoint. So to answer the question, yes, phrases are important, such as good morning, as you can see from my presentation slide. The important thing is how you arrange it.
mm,
The importance is, do not say as you can see from my PowerPoint and you go to good morning. It's a very weird arrangement. The audience be like, I thought we started the presentation, why are you saying good morning? If it
mm.
causes confusion.
Yeah.
And finally, if you are very stuck about phrases, I don't know
Mm,
what phrase, I scared I forget, palm notes. Palm notes will be very useful for you. So
mm,
just click a palm note, okay, say phrases, what type of phrases, and use that palm notes to guide you to give a more effective presentation.
I see. Gotcha. So you mean that for novice speakers or beginning public speaking learners, it's better to study useful phrases first. And
Yes,
until they can master those useful phrases, then they can be spontaneous in order to think of different ways to start their own presentation or their speech. Right?
yes, exactly.
Okay, gotcha. Do you think that grammar matter in speech writing?
Okay, this is a very controversial question to ask in a speech
Because
writing
we study
environment.
public speaking in English, so that's why that I'm gonna ask you about grammar.
Yeah,
You
sure.
think?
Okay, honestly, to me, in my personal opinion,
Yeah.
as long I get the message,
Mm.
grammar is not important.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I've been judges to many contests, public speaking contests, as
Mm.
you can see, grammar, it's only 5%. It's
Mm.
just 5% of the judging criteria. At most,
Mm.
it's 7%. So coming back to presentations or formal
Mm.
public speaking events, grammar is actually very important if you want people to judge you based on your professionalism. If you want people to judge you based on your professionalism on the topic that you're going to talk about, imagine that you're a lecturer and you're
Mm.
presenting about cardiovascular diseases, or
Mm.
the budget the budget of the country, the economic situation of the country. So if you're talking about that and your grammar is bad, no one's going to understand you, no one's going to take you seriously.
Mm.
So grammar is, to me, and to sum up, is very situational. It
Mm.
depends on the situation. If you're giving an informal one, it's okay, because I tell my students, I just want you to speak.
Mm.
Grammar errors, forget about it.
Mm.
We shall think about it once you're actually confident in delivering your speech. So
Mm.
my goal is to to public speaking coaches here or speech writers here, focus
Mm.
on finding your style first.
Mm.
Focus on finding your style of writing, your style of delivery, the style of articulation that you have. After that, focus on grammar. Because
Mm.
not every, even when you come to me, you ask me subject verb agreement. I'd be like, what is it? I don't understand it.
Mm.
I won't understand it. So it's about understanding your confidence level, finding
Mm.
your style of writing, then slowly induce grammar into it. So to sum up, I feel grammar is very situationally based. It depends on who are you delivering, what you're
Mm.
delivering, and when you're delivering it. So it's very situational based about when it comes to grammar.
Mm. Okay, sure. The point is that sometimes some people might just have a debate point toward your point. For example, if we don't care too much about grammar, how can we make sure that our listeners understand us? So that is, so if we can structure our ideas in a very structured way, in a correct sentence, how can we make sure your listeners understand you, or sometimes they may misunderstand you? That is the first concern. And why do you think that we need to focus on our speaking style first before we're gonna focus on our grammar? Why is that?
Okay, it's very simple. Because
Mm,
if you know your speaking style, you can actually suit the style, the type of language or the type of language that you
mm,
want to do. Like to me, my style is very high energetic and hyped speeches.
yeah.
So I suit my grammar and grammar and my language to that
Mm,
type of style. So what I found out was that that is very important. Find out your style first, and
mm,
grammar eventually is very important. But we need to find a style first, and from that style, we can actually change the grammar. And I always do this. If I'm bad at grammar, I write my speech. I always get it proofread. So
mm,
if you really care about your grammar, have it
yeah.
proofread by anyone. Proofread it. Ask the person to correct your grammar and correct your grammar. Then you restructure your speech because you already okay. This is how I'm going to present it. This is what I'm going to do. So even for example, you haven't prepared a speaking style. You've given a speech. Okay, you wrote a speech. You're given to someone. Too many
Mm,
grammatical errors. Will you
mm,
get stressed because you don't even know how to present it?
mm,
But now you know how to present it. It's just that
mm,
we have just minor error in the words that you're going to deliver. So which one
mm,
would you feel will be more impactful? You don't know your speaking style and the grammar error comes, or you
mm,
know your speaking style and the grammar error comes. Which one would you feel more confident in dealing?
mm. I
So
see, I
you have
see.
to think about that.
Mm. It's just like that before we start something, we already know that there are so many risks in failures. So it's really hard to start, right? If we focus on grammar too much, it's really hard for speakers to be
Yes,
comfortable on speaking on stage because that person will
exactly.
just only pay attention to grammar error, and then sometimes they will be like very cautious in using the language, and sometimes they may lose their confidence as well.
Yes, exactly. I completely agree with you.
I see. Albert Einstein used to say that any form can make things bigger, more complex, and more violent. It takes a touch of genius and a lot of courage to move into the opposite direction. The opposite direction is shorter, simpler, and yes, more readable sentences. And our goals are plain English. Do you think that when you present in English, it's better to simplify the sentence structure? And do you think how many words should we have per sentence when you present in English?
Okay, so I completely agree with simplifying your message
Yeah.
because like I said earlier, we should what if the audience don't have a grasp of English very well? Or for
Mm,
example, I'm from Malaysia, I'm speaking to you from in Vietnam. So
mm,
like the accent that I have while I speak and the accent when you have when you speak is totally different,
sure.
and it can cause a bit of confusion while the delivery. So
Mm,
always keep it short, simple, and sweet.
mm,
Follow these three as short, simple, and sweet. Keep it short, simple, and sweet because it's very important that the audience understand. Like for
mm,
example, when you're reading a book, every book you see there's a summary of the book.
mm,
Why is there a summary of the book? So the
mm,
audience will understand better about the book. So
mm,
what if you can actually give the summary at the start
yeah.
in your speeches? So the audience will have a better understanding. Yes, this is what is going
Mm,
to speak. Because end of the day, we want the audience to take a take home message. And if
mm,
it's too long, like I said earlier, do not overload your audience.
mm,
So always remember to simplify it, keep it simple, rephrase, paraphrase, keep it short and simple. And when it comes to a sentence,
mm,
I feel it's nice for maybe 10 to 15 words per sentence should be good enough. That is
yeah.
my personal opinion. There will be people who are debating it could be more. But this is strategies that I've used with my students, and I've seen them doing well in it. So
mm,
I'm just practicing what I tell my students to everyone else.
mm. There is a scientific research recently that whenever we write an English sentence to present, so it's better if we can keep between 10 to 20 words per sentence. And that is the right amount of words that you can put in a sentence to make sure that your sentence is short, concise, and get to the point.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Do you have any exercise to make your sentence short and concise and get to the point? To train your brain, how can we do that?
Okay. Basically, I use a speech writing software, which
Yeah.
is called, I use a speech writing software basically. If I feel like, oh, the sentence is too long, the sentence is too long. So I
Mm,
go on the speech writing software and they say, okay,
mm,
this is too long. Okay, let me rephrase for you. And
mm,
they rephrase it into like what, 7, 8 words out of the 20 words that I put.
mm,
Another thing that you can do is, well, like what I said earlier, summarize. Like my mentor always told me, if you're writing a 7 minute speech,
mm,
imagine that you're writing it for 30 minutes.
mm,
And imagine then after you wrote it for 30 minutes, then cut it down to imagine you're delivering it for 20 minutes. Then
mm,
do the same process again, but make sure your facts are still there. The
mm,
three facts that you have for that 30 minutes, make sure that same three facts are there. So it's
mm,
very important. We need to simplify because, for example, you don't know anything about, let's just say, accounting.
mm,
And I talk so many facts about accounting, so
mm,
many knowledge about accounting. In
mm,
the end, you come out, I'm like, what did that guy told to me? I don't even understand what did he say, You
mm,
get that type of sense of confusion with the audience. So keep it simple.
mm,
Analyze your audience. Coming back to the first thing that I ever said, audience analysis is very important because the
mm,
moment we start to analyze our audience, we
mm,
tend to get a better picture. And from there, okay, they can handle long sentences, they
mhm,
cannot handle long sentences.
mm.
And then you can tailor make your speech with your audience.
I see. So it means that at first we're gonna start with a long speech, and then you're gonna make it shorter and shorter and shorter. You cut it eventually, right?
Yep.
Until the time that and that is the right time for you to deliver that speech. I find that it's harder to shorten a speech rather than to speak longer. Do you find it that way as well?
Yes, I found it very difficult at the start. I
Yeah.
found it really difficult. Until now, I find it difficult.
Hmm.
But as I always say, if you love something, you won't find the hardness in it.
Yeah, definitely. Sure.
So even though it's hard, I'm doing this to make people feel
Mm.
good, make people feel confident about themselves. So
Yeah.
I will do what it takes to make them feel good.
Yeah.
So it's basically analyzing your audience. You know your audience, you can do whatever it takes to impress them.
Yeah, loving your audience just like you're loving a partner.
Yeah.
And there's one point I think that is also the final question that I would like to ask Kaja before I open the questions to our audience here. If you have any question, please make sure that you can type on the comment section, and I will help to collect your question and send to Kaja. Then he will answer your questions. So the final question from me that is, words are sensational. It means that sometimes when you listen to some words, you get goosebumps and you feel that goodness, I'm awakened. I feel that something here. I'm connected to that speech. So the point is that when you prepare for speech writing, how can you make sure that you can choose meaningful words in your speech and people can feel sensational toward your speech delivery?
Okay. So I recently gave a talk about self-worth,
Mm,
how people can, love themselves and how they can analyze themselves better. So the
mm-hmm,
words that I used were not ordinary words. I told people to I showed people this. I showed people this and I told them,
mm,
do you see this as half full or do
mm,
you see this as half empty? I got their attention. Now
mm,
I tell them, what if I tell you you should be
mm,
grateful that it's even filled? That woke them up.
mm.
Another sensational thing that I told them, imagine that you are in a circle.
Mm,
Imagine yourself in a circle. Then you draw another circle. You draw another circle. You draw another circle. Just know that the small circle that you are in right now,
mm-hmm,
it's your comfort zone, and that is preventing you to
mm,
enjoy all the other circles out there. So it's very important that we use word sensational word, not to say sensational words. We can use simple but impactful words. Like I use circles, and how I can make circle impactful by imagining it like circle is a comfort zone, half full, half empty. How do I make it impactful? By adding another option saying that be grateful that it's even filled. Always, they always make it simple, because people, that is the main problem when it comes to public speaking, writing speeches. People always want it to be like boom. I want to like have a very good image, I want people to get come off with a bang, but no, it's not like that. You can even make a simple speech into a fantastic speech. If you watch all the speeches by Steve Jobs, Bill
mm,
Gates, do they use bombastic words? No, they
mm,
use simple, and they use your daily life examples,
mm,
and you still get goosebumps. So
mm,
use them as inspiration when it comes to you giving your speeches. Use simple daily examples. You will make people realize, wow, this guy is looking at this at a different angle. Let's pay attention to him.
mm, mm. Yeah, I find that actually selecting meaningful words are much more difficult than doing something from your true authentic emotion. Because as long as that you can carry that authentic emotion and you know how to transfer that emotion to your listeners, then they can feel sensational because of your own emotional influence, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I feel that way as well. And there's one word that my teacher back then he usually shared with me. One word that whenever you want your audience to be awakened, and sometimes you just feel that they are very sleepy right now, you might want to use the word imagine.
Yes.
Imagine that is a very powerful word in order to awaken anyone's mind. And I strongly recommend our audience here. Whenever you want to awake someone in your audience and you feel they are sleepy now, just using the word imagine and then
Yep.
pause.
Correct.
Yeah, great. I think that it's time for us to say goodbye to our audience here. And thank you so much for watching our education section from EIY Public Speaking and Professional Development. Thank you so much, Kaja, to be on the show today. Thank you.
No worries.
And hi, everyone. The next live stream session will be conducted at EIY on September 4th from 7 p.m. until 7:45 p.m. with the topic that is 7 speaking voice elements that empower your leadership ability, and which is conducted by Maria. She is an experienced public speaking coach with more than 20 years of experience. I believe that we can learn so much from her. So thank you so much, Keja, and everyone here. See you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.